You highlighted some of the attitudes of prominent Democrats as a prime example of why libertarians are useful in the political discourse. One of them was Gretchen Whitmer, who gave a speech about tariffs, and we have a clip of that I wanted to play. Could you roll that, please, John?
I'm not going to sugarcoat it. These last few days have been really tough for Michigan. 20% of our economy is tied to the auto industry, which depends on a steady flow of goods from our largest and closest trading partners. We're already seeing the impacts of tariffs. Auto companies are stockpiling parts and laying off workers. Suppliers are facing higher costs and delaying expansions. I understand the motivation behind the tariffs. And I can tell you, here's where President Trump and I do agree. We do need to make more stuff in America. More cars and chips, more steel and ships. We do need fair trade. No state has lived through the consequences of offshoring and outsourcing more than Michigan. So as I've said before, I'm not against tariffs outright, but it is a blunt tool. You can't just pull out the tariff hammer to swing at every problem without a clear, defined end goal.
Then we also had this statement from Bernie Sanders, who's been out on a major political tour, saying that as someone who helped lead the effort against disastrous, unfettered free trade deals with China, Mexico, and other low-wage countries, I understand that we need trade policies that benefit American workers, not just the CEOs of large corporations. And that includes targeted tariffs, which can be a powerful tool in stopping corporations from outsourcing American jobs and factories abroad. Bottom line, we need a rational, well thought out, and fair trade policy. And then Trump's across the board tariffs are not the way to do it. How does that make you feel about the state of the party and progressivism? These sort of, I kind of like tariffs, but not the way Trump is doing it.
That's a very weak message and destined to fail. Trump's tariffs are either going to be rolled back, as he, unilaterally has rolled back some tariffs or paused them, I guess. And then, or they're going to hurt people. And either way, they're going to be bad. So then saying, oh, tariffs are sometimes good, but the implementation is wrong. That's a weak ass message. Bernie Sanders has been absolutely fiery and powerful when going up against Elon Musk and saying, going against Doge and saying the Stop Oligarchy tour. And then as soon as it was tariffs, the message falls apart and the attacks fall apart because Trump has triangulated the anti-neoliberal left. And I have lots of criticisms about the anti-neoliberal left. I don't know if you want me to go into those. We could spend a lot of time talking about that or not.
Describe briefly what you mean, just for those who aren't as steeped in this.
Yeah. So over the past, in the years since the Great Recession, let's say, a progressive intellectual faction has coalesced, and I would say around people like Elizabeth Warren, and also the Roosevelt Institute, the Washington Center for Equitable Growth, the Hewlett Foundation. These are intellectuals, right? I'm not talking about people marching in the street, activists. I'm talking about intellectuals. This idea has coalesced that neoliberalism is the root of our problems, and we got to stop neoliberalism. And a lot of this is anti-corporatism. It's like corporations are too powerful. And when they say powerful, they don't always necessarily mean like power to set monopoly prices or whatever, or monopsony prices. They mean like politically powerful. Corporations' political power is oppressing us. And this is why we don't have, things. This is, so that's what we need to go after. We need to be anti-corporate. That's the new thing. And that's, and this is how we'll be anti-neoliberal. So instead of, anti-market, just saying markets suck, we'll say corporations as entities suck and their political power is bad. And so it's not just a, purely like regulatory agenda, like free markets suck, let's regulate them. It's the idea of corporations are bad actors, let's go after them. And you see the neo-Brandising antitrust movement come out of this, right? It's the idea that we should go after companies not just because they raise prices on consumers or suppress wages for workers, but also because we think they have too much political influence and power. We want to knock down their ability to influence the political process. So we're going to, use antitrust to break them up. That hasn't really worked in the courts very much because our antitrust law just doesn't support that. But that is the idea of Lina Khan and the neo-Brandeisians. The idea that political power is the key kind of power that needs to be fought. And so a lot of the anti-neoliberalism has coalesced around anti-corporatism. And it's not the only thing they've done too. They're also, the anti-neoliberals are also in favor of industrial policy, which I like. I'm a big supporter of industrial policy, actually. But then they're also, a supporter of protectionism, which I'm not so much a supporter of. And then they're a big supporter of unions, which I have nuanced views on. I think they could be good or bad depending. And so I think that, the anti-neoliberal faction has quickly made a lot of mistakes, very quickly made a lot of mistakes that blew up in their face really fast, in just a decade. And whereas when you looked at the Reaganomics, like the Reagan conservative libertarian-ish stuff, it took decades for that to really blow up in our face in the financial crisis, right? It took, people complained about like increasing inequality and stuff, but like people didn't really get mad until the Great Recession. So it took almost 30 years for this to blow up in our face. And the New Deal, it took us, until the 70s for it to blow up in our face, like 4 decades. So even longer. And so I think when you create a system of ideas designed to solve a set of problems, it addresses those problems to the greatest extent it can, and then it overruns its original purpose and starts addressing things that it shouldn't be addressing and doing things it shouldn't be doing, and then it blows up in your face. This always happens. This happens with every single system of ideas we have, no matter how good it is created to address the problems of the day, and then it blows up in your face, and it needs to be retooled, and someone else needs to get their turn at bat, and that's how society progresses, I think. But the thing is that the anti-neoliberal ideas were so they were so reactive, they were so defined by what they weren't instead of what they were, that they fell victim to what we call the politician's syllogism, if you've ever heard of that. The politician's syllogism is a statement that says, something must be done, this is something, therefore this must be done. And it's wrong, that's wrong. But essentially the anti-neoliberals reached for any convenient or available tool with which to strike at the things they, at neoliberalism, or what they saw as neoliberalism. And a lot of those tools were not fit for purpose. Some were, some were not. And I think that tariffs and protectionism were something they started reaching for, and that then Trump came in, stole their thunder, and did 100 times more than they were going to do, and it blew up in his face. Trump is actually existing anti-neoliberalism.
Hey, that was a clip from Just Asking Questions. You can watch another one here or the full episode here. And please subscribe to our brand new channel to get us started off right and be notified when new episodes or clips go up. Thanks for watching.